Welcome everyone to today's presentation on volunteer community scientists and the Swim Guide app. My name is Brian Fainer and I'm with the National Park Service and help support our Connected Conservation initiative. Our Connected Conservation webinar series, if you're new to it, it focuses on how the NPS and partners can collaborate together and use all the different tools and strategies that are out there to improve natural, cultural, recreation resources at the landscape level. Today's presentation is a first in a series on how individuals can help parks and nature. And a recurring theme that you'll notice throughout the webinars is how the federal government cannot tackle and solve the climate change and biodiversity crisis on its own. We need help. And we need to work with partners, and we need to put in the effort and the time to work with our partners and the public. So I'm going to put a link into the chat there that is going to go to our Connected Conservation website. And there's a page there that focuses on conservation at home. And these are actions that all of us can take in our own daily lives and at home to help nature and by doing so, protected places like parks. So you'll also be able to, from the Connected Conservation website, register for future webinars in the series. And today, throughout the presentation, feel free to type in any questions you have into the questions tab. Following the presentation, we'll circle back and take a look at everyone's questions at that time. And also, as a reminder, all of our webinars in the Connected Conservation webinar series are open to the public. And we invite the public and conservation partners to join us and share those announcements far and wide. And so for today's presentation, we're going to focus largely on the Chattahoochee River and the National Recreation Area that's managed by the Park Service in Georgia. And so I've asked Beth Wheeler and Ann Couch with the park to start us off and give some background and talk about the water quality challenges that they face.
Thanks, Brian. I'm Beth Wheeler. I'm the Chief of Planning, Resources, and Education at Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm joined today by Annie Couch, our park hydrologist. The recreation area was established in 1978 and includes 48 river miles between Buford Dam at Lake Sidney Lanier and Peachtree Creek in the city of Atlanta. Our park preserves the Chattahoochee River and over 5,000 acres in 15 separate land units. We really balance resource stewardship and recreation in one of the largest urban populations in the country. As a recreational river park with over 3 million visitors, water quality is an important focus of what we do at the park. We're happy to share the presentations today by Chattahoochee Riverkeeper and Swim Guide with you. The work to monitor water quality in streams, tributaries, and the Chattahoochee River itself is critical to science-informed decision-making and building strong community partnerships. Federal agencies like the Park Service and USGS partner with Chattahoochee Riverkeeper to monitor water quality through the Bacteria Alert Program, which Mike will talk about. At Chattahoochee River, we have stream stewards that work as volunteers and citizen scientists to monitor dissolved oxygen, pH levels, and temperature. This data collection through formal partnerships or with citizen scientists is invaluable to the Park Service. However, there can sometimes be a disconnect between the science and the public. Innovative applications such as Swim Guide provide a digestible way to communicate complex scientific data to a larger user group. The key to success is this link between knowledge and action, and ultimately that empowers everyone to use the information to make good decisions and maybe create the next generation of advocates. We'd like to pass the presentation over to Mike at Chattahoochee Riverkeeper to tell you more about the Bacteria Alert Program and the Neighborhood Water Watch. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Hey, everyone. I'm Mike Meyer with Chattahoochee Riverkeeper. Welcome to the presentation. I'm going to be talking about Bacteria Alert, Swim Guide, and Neighborhood Water Watch, 3 programs that work together very closely, and we are working together to keep watch over our waters in various parts of the watersheds, which I'm about to talk about right now. So first, a little bit about our organization. We are a nonprofit, non-government organization, and we were established in 1994. And so we have offices in Atlanta, Gainesville, and LaGrange. We're mostly focused on advocacy work, program work, like I'm about to talk about, our monitoring programs, trash cleanup, stuff like that. But we're mostly focused on just making sure that there's enough clean water for now and future generations, for the fish, wildlife, people that depend on it. So that's our organization, Chattahoochee Riverkeeper. We partner with various organizations on various projects, Bacteria Alert being a huge project that we partner with the National Park Service in the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area. That is a 48-mile stretch of river that is a water trail. It's a pretty awesome spot here in Georgia on the west side of Georgia, runs along the west side of the state and dumps out into the Gulf of Mexico. But yeah, the national park area is 48 miles. And the Bacteria Alert focuses on the lower half of that water trail, 28 miles approximately between our stations, where we monitor weekly and update a model that park users can go to check water quality. So as I said, it's a partnership between different organizations, the National Park Service, USGS, United States Geological Survey, and us, the Chattahoochee Riverkeeper. We work together to get this project completed. We and the National Park Service collect samples from a few locations on the river, and we bring them to the USGS lab where National Parks does the actual test in the lab, and then USGS actually posts and updates the model. So it's a combination of people working together to get this information out there. And then it can be posted and updated regularly so that it can provide timely notifications about elevated E. coli levels and contamination threats. So users that go to the site can scroll through and look at graphs, see how precipitation is impacting things, see what the predictions are telling you. But mostly people are centered around this page here, where they are just kind of looking at the current estimate of E. coli there. In green, you can see it was meeting our recreational recommendations set by the EPA of 235 MPN per 100 milliliters. So it was meeting that standard according to estimates on based on turbidity, flows in the river at the time, dam releases, temperature, seasonality. Those are all factors that go into this predictive model that can give you basically real-time results. And that is really invaluable to park goers as they are about to, go out on these boating trips. This picture I took here was taken in West Point Lake, where we do monitoring. So yeah, the data is really important to park users. So know before you go, kind of thing. Bacteria Alert is also updated to Swim Guide. So Swim Guide is a kind of a one-stop shop for all your beach and water quality needs. It's a more straightforward pass or fail kind of system. So it gives you kind of a red if it's not meeting water quality standards at the time that the test was taken. It does kind of phase out of relevance after a week. It gets grayed out because if you don't have constant data, then you don't really know the condition of the water. Rivers are very dynamic systems, so it can change from one day to the next. So that's somewhat of a limitation of the Swim Guide, but one of the benefits of Bacteria Alert, that's really giving you a real-time kind of look. It really just depends on what you're using this data for. The data is out there for people to understand if they should be recreating, but it can also be used for a deeper understanding of river trends and stuff like that. And that is where Neighborhood Water Watch kind of comes in. That is a program I'm also going to talk about right now. It's a Riverkeeper, Chattahoochee Riverkeeper program that is actually also very partnership driven. But all that stuff is I wouldn't say all of our data points, but a bunch of our data is uploaded to Swim Guide in places where people are recreating. So again, it gives that kind of pass-fail system, which is really useful to anyone who's on the river. And so, but with Neighborhood Water Watch, as I'm about to say and explore a little bit more here, is it's very data heavy, and so it just depends on what you're going to use that information for. We're pulling samples from the river that tell us about E. coli levels and other parameters. So if you just need to know if it's safe or not to swim that week, then maybe Swim Guide or Bacteria Alert is more where you need to be checking. But if you're a decision maker, policy making, tracking down issues, there is more data you could dive into, and that is where our program comes in. The Bacteria Alert program is really focused on the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area, a 28-mile stretch of river, which is extremely, utilized. 3 million park users, I think, a year go through this area. So it's super utilized, but also looking up and down the watershed, that map on my right here is the Chattahoochee watershed. Basically, all those dots are sample sites that we collect through the Neighborhood Water Watch program. We sample from all the way above Helen down to past Columbus, and we're looking at a larger scale, not just within the park, but trends in the river and the tributaries that drain into the Chattahoochee River. So yeah, with the Neighborhood Water Watch program, we've got about 200 stations, 130 volunteers, 4 labs, and yeah, we use this data to get to decision makers, and they use this data to track down spills. We use this data to track down issues in spills. The way the program works is that the volunteers are trained by us. We get them all the supplies that they need to collect the sample. Then we get them out in the creek. They're sampling, bringing samples to us from their little creeks, sometimes in their backyard, sometimes a creek of larger significance. But this is how we cover, 200 locations up and down the watershed. We have people interested in their own little creeks, or maybe just want to help inform the larger, picture of water quality across the watershed. So we get people out on the streams. They're collecting samples every week, bringing us the samples, driving us the samples to one of our 4 drop-off locations and labs. And then we do the testing and analysis according to quality assured, quality controlled methods and procedures. So yeah, it is a volunteer supported program, but it is also a quality control program, just like Bacteria Alert is a quality control program. We make sure that all of our methods and materials are that we're acting according to our quality assurance project plan, which was approved by the EPA in 2012 and 2018. And we test for E. coli. We've talked a little bit about E. coli already a couple times, but I guess I should mention E. coli is an indicator of sewage contamination. So when we have that, when it's not meeting that 235 threshold recommendation, then that's suggesting that there could be sewage contamination. So E. coli is like a canary in a coal mine. It's an indicator of pathogens that could be in the water that could make you sick. And so that's why it's super important to recreation. It can tell you, depending on that level of E. coli, if there's a potentially really bad sewer spill out there, or if it's just background brought in by rain or something like that. So looking deeper into the data is kind of one of the benefits of this program, where we're looking at just pulling back from a small area, looking at a larger area, the Chattahoochee River watershed, and we're kind of looking for trends over that whole watershed. So yeah, E. coli, as I mentioned, we're testing for that. We're testing for turbidity, which is how cloudy the water is, conductivity, which measures how fast electrical current can travel in water, and we have found, road salts and weird things in there from spikes in conductivity, so it can be certainly helpful. Optical brighteners measured by way of a fluorometer that we use. which measures optical brighteners, which are found in soaps and cosmetics and things that make clothes and teeth and things whiter and brighter. If there are soaps in the water, there could be a leak in the system, the same leak that would let out sewage. So it can be a very quick feedback on how a creek is doing if there are contaminants in the creek. Data is uploaded and assessed, issues are tracked down and addressed. So we are kind of continually digesting this data and trying to see what it's telling us, posting our results to Swim Guide for the general use by the public, but also looking deeper into what the data is telling us so we can find some of these massive issues that we found out here, 140 or so of these sewer spills, contamination sources, et cetera, that we found through this program, a real partnership-driven program where, you know, we have the community bringing us samples from all walks of life, different garden clubs and municipalities. We have various levels of involvement in the program. But yeah, this all paints a large picture, which we're able to then ID these contaminated stream reaches and put that data to use to make the water quality hopefully better. And so downstream users can enjoy that. Our data is uploaded to not only Swim Guide, but also our own in-house chattahoochee.org/NWW. You can select your site on the left there and scroll down, get your data, use the map if you like, but you can find your data on this map, select your dot, and you can get your latest E. coli level, turbidity, all those good parameters. And so, yeah, this tells you just a little bit more. You have to do more interpretation with this one than kind of a red light, green light system. But yeah, this could be used and is used by policymakers to decide where issues are. We communicate those results to our municipal partners and any responsible entities that are responsible for these issues we find. And so this is one of the big tools that we have in our tool belt, is to collect data through that database and then provide spreadsheets and graphs that show these sometimes disturbing trends. And what do I mean by disturbing trends? I just want to spend a little bit of time, just because this is one of the benefits of this program that are so phenomenal, is just taking the data, applying that data, being able to, communicate that out to recreational users, and then being able to communicate that out to government agencies who might be able to make, some infrastructure changes and the like. So what do I mean by what should we act on is our action value that we've created. Well, we borrowed it from a Georgia Adopt a Stream program. They say that, well, you might have numbers that are above the EPA recreational standard, but when you have numbers that are severely above the recreational standard, it's not necessarily indicating a background issue or something that might be difficult to find. It might be actually very easy to locate, as is the example right here, where it was above the action, the EPA recommendation, 235 downstream. But if we went a little way upstream, we hit this sewer spill there. That was 241,000, almost 250,000 colonies of E. coli per little jar of water, per 100 milliliters of water. So definitely indicating a sewer spill there. And that's the kind of thing that we're looking for, these spikes in the data, and they're really bearing down into the data that tell us, hey, there's a sewer spill out there. So once we have these, we're assessing this data, we're posting this data, sharing this data, but we're also addressing this data. So how does that work? We put our waders on, we test our way upstream until we get to a point in the stream where there's no contamination indicated. And in that stretch of creek that we've identified as a contaminated stream reach, we will give it a very serious inspection, looking up and down the creek for issues, taking tests, observations, etc., until we find something like this: an overflowing manhole clogged by fats, oils, and greases. Common thing we see, or a break in a sewer line caused by erosion, other issues. But once we find these issues, we report those immediately to the municipality, do follow-up testing, and we make sure that we keep the community involved at every step, because they were integral in bringing in this data and highly impacted by the results. So once we've kind of reviewed that, we get our decision, our our data to the decision makers, assess and address issues, and keep community in the loop. And that is kind of the beauty of the program, is that that so many people on so many levels working together, and we've seen really dramatic improvements in our creeks, and then ultimately into the river system itself, which is going to be a benefit to all river users and downstream users. So here's just a couple of examples of some amazing results that we've recorded as a result of our work. That concrete bar right there was removed, changed the flow of the creek completely. It was leaking, and we saw this immediate 78% reduction in the creek. So yeah, we've definitely seen some amazing results as a result of this program. So here's a couple links. I know you're going to get some, I think maybe made available at a later date, but these are, you know, our website, the Chattahoochee website, a couple papers that talk about how that model was created based on turbidity and dam releases and other factors, and a couple other things. So anyway, thank you very much. I hope I didn't go over too much on my time. Next up, we have Orr, who's going to really explain more about swim guides. So thank you all. Appreciate it. And I've got his slides available.
Thank you so much, Mike. That was really just really amazing. Well done for all the good work that you do. That's just incredible. That was a very scary pipe photo there.
Yes.
I hope I hope you got that sorted out. That looked terrifying.
We did. Thank you.
Hi everyone. My name is Orr Denemark. I'm the swim guide coordinator at Swim Drink Fish, and exactly kind of like how Mike was describing a swim guide beforehand, I'd love to kind of share with you what is swim guide, what we're trying to do with it, and a little bit of background information about it. So first of all, swim guide is a project of Swim Drink Fish. Swim Drink Fish is a charity in Canada. I'm myself now calling you from Halifax, Nova Scotia on the East Coast. So hopefully there's some East Coasters on the webinar. And the big theory of change, the big way that Swim Drink Fish operates is actually very simple. It's we believe that people will protect what they love. So to protect the water, all we need to do is help people fall in love with the water. And I'm sure that a lot of people here on this call can really, you know, just resonate and agree with that concept. People, you know, you need to build that relationship with a body of water to care about it. And then if people care about it, they take action for it. So Swim Guide came as a communications tool to really facilitate that falling in love of people with their water. So the way that we do that is that on Swim Guide we give online representation of water sites, and just to kind of help you, if you've never seen Swim Guide, to help you kind of visualize it. If you're familiar with the website TripAdvisor, for example, hopefully some of you are familiar with TripAdvisor. So TripAdvisor gives an online representation of touristic sites, right? You can go on TripAdvisor and say like, I want to go to the Eiffel Tower. And then they'll tell you, oh, the Eiffel Tower is this and that, and this is how you should book your tickets and stuff. So I would like you to imagine that Swim Guide is the water TripAdvisor. It's the blue TripAdvisor. And Mike, if you could take me to the next slide, please. So I'm really happy to share with you all that Swim Guide at the moment has over 8,000 sites on it. We call it beaches, but we use the term beach very, very loosely. So it's you know, a river, a coastal beach, a lake beach, seasonal pond, a cave with a little bit of water in it at the end. For us, they're all beaches because they're places that people can recreate with the water in. And just to give you a little bit of magnitude of Swim Guide, Swim Guide at the moment carries about 2 million users annually, or just shy of that, and 8 million users since inception. And again, those 8,000 beaches representing 10 countries overall. And as you can see also on this slide, we have 120 affiliates of Swim Guide, which I will get to in a sec to talk about that. But Mike, could I have the next slide? Thank you. And just to contextualize that a little bit for the United States, from like just the volume of people alone, the United States is very, very popular on Swim Guide. So you can see almost 900,000 users on Swim Guide originated from the United States last year, and we have currently 5,162 beaches. I counted them. Okay. We have representing in the United States. So we're really prevalent in the US, and we're really happy about that. Just to kind of give you context of how does it work. Next slide. So like I said, Swim Guide is originally from Canada. I myself am living in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So when we say like we want to give an online representation of the water, if you have a body of water that you take care of, like for example, the Chattahoochee, I would never be able to represent it, right? Like me or Denemark, because I've never been there. I don't know how best to describe the water. I wouldn't know how to tell the story of the water in a proper way. And that's really where the affiliate program comes in. So when I say we have 120 affiliate groups on Swim Guide, these are groups that have monitoring programs, water monitoring programs. They have some data to share, and they bring their expertise and their knowledge to Swim Guide. And again, the way that I see it, the relationship between Swim Guide and affiliates is that Swim Guide is basically a loudspeaker, right? We can broadcast your work, your findings, your water. We broadcast it to the public, to these 2 million users annually who are looking to get involved with water, but you plug in your music. And that's the win-win here. The win-win is that you get a loudspeaker to advertise and talk about the work that you do, and Swim Guide gets something to put on our platform, right? Because if we wouldn't have affiliates, we wouldn't have anything to put on our platform. I would never know how to describe any body of water that I've never been to, and I think I would probably do the water injustice here. So who can become an affiliate, and who is like an affiliate? So I'm happy to say that our affiliates are very, very diverse. We have health units, we have governments, we have community organizations, we have watershed associations, we have marinas, we have just a bunch of groups of people who pull themselves together and are sampling the water. So what I would love for you to take away from this is that if you have water that you would like to represent and you would like to bring attention to, and you would like to bring people to that water, to recreate in that water, then you have a place on Swim Guide. And I really, really invite you to reach out to me and we can talk about your specific situation. One of my favorite examples is actually from Flathead Lake. If any of you know Flathead Lake, we have an affiliate there, which are just a group of open water swimmers that care about the water, and they pull their resources together and they rely on an external lab, and they just sample their own water just because they care, because they're open water swimmers and they care. And I love that, right? But Swim Guide gives them that echoing, that broadcasting, that now they can put their work, put their results somewhere for the public to see. So, and next slide, please, Mike. So what does a beach page look like? What does that look like? So this is an example of a beach page, and I highly recommend to all of you to just go to swimguide.org and look up your nearest body of water. But essentially, there are two types of information that are shared on a beach page on this, like I said, an online representation of the water. The first one is the scientific information. So very much, you can see here for this place in San Diego, California, you can see that it meets currently, the current status meets water quality standards based on last sample taken when I did this screenshot on May 6, 2021. So it's kind of old now, but as you can see, the first thing, it's very, very easy for the user to be, yes, I know that I might not know yet what do those standards mean and what is the E. coli count and stuff, but in a very immediate way, you're like, yes, I know that this site has met recreational water standards and I can go recreate there. The second kind of type of information that we provide on SwimGuide is what I refer to as the community information. Things like, what is this site good for? And what should I expect when I go there? So again, think about like when you go on TripAdvisor, things like, oh, is this site great for snorkeling or swimming? Or is this site actually better for like walking along the pier and looking into the horizon? Is this site really important to a specific community? Is this site, for example, is this site has been traditionally a safe space for LGBTQ+ community? Or does this site hold any significant connection to an indigenous group or First Nations? Or is there a periodical event here? Every summer there is like a sandcastle building competition here. All of that information I would consider community information. And again, if you have sites, if you have parks that have water-related sites that you want to raise awareness about and celebrate and let people know, hey, we have this really cool lakeside, waterfall, whitewater currents, anything at all that you think, hey, we want to bring to the spotlight, then it absolutely has a place on SwimGuide to draw those 2 million sets of eyes of the community onto this. And again, another way that I think will kind of, it goes really hand in hand, like Mike was saying a few times about advertising your results. I think there is also the really great opportunity about that ecotourism and that connection of having a group come sample and then advertise the results on SwimGuide in a very immediate way. We have affiliates that they tell me, oh, we make it into this corporate event. We bring a group of people, we get them wet, we get them like sampling the water, and then we tell them, look at SwimGuide in 2 days. All of your hard work is going to be showing on SwimGuide, and that gives that whole extra depth of connection. Of they can go back and say, hey, look at this. My work as a volunteer had exact, like we can show it, we can really see it, and we don't have to wait till like end of the year report that that summarize everything. On SwimGuide, things are very immediate, which I think is a very good kind of plus of it. Next slide. So what does it look like for you? So this is a little bit of a peek on the back end of SwimGuide. I just wanted to put it in there to kind of show you, because I know that there's a lot of parks kind of rangers, I guess, like you're the people who manage the parks. What would it look like for you if you thought, hey, I'd like to be a part of the SwimGuide community and I'd like to come on as an affiliate? So in terms of time commitment, oh, sorry, I should have said also before, joining SwimGuide does not involve any financial cost. It doesn't cost you anything to use SwimGuide as a user or to download the app or to join the affiliate program. It is completely free for all of the levels of users. And I wanted to share this kind of peek on the back end of SwimGuide, because when we say update the results or share your results on SwimGuide, it's literally clicking those check or X boxes next to the certain site. So if you choose to share your sites on SwimGuide and give your water an online representation, they would have this kind of like little checkbox, and then you can navigate to the relevant date, like showing here, and then you literally updating the results is click, 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 and that is it. I really want to stress this out, that updating Swim Guide should be one of the shortest tasks that you have on your day after you analyze your results. So I just wanted to kind of throw it in there to show you that it's really minimum effort with a lot of echo and a lot of you make a big splash when you share your results on Swim Guide. Yeah, and really just invite you all to, if you want to kind of explore this option and see if you can share your water data and your sites on Swim Guide, please reach out to me, and yeah, we can see if it's a good fit for you. I believe, Mike, the next slide is the last, I think. Yes. So once again, my name is Or Denemark. I'm the swim guide coordinator for Swim, Drink, Fish, and yeah, I think that about covers it. And I'm excited to hear if there are any questions, or if we can go further with this.
Great, thank you so much, Or and Mike. I've got so many different questions for you guys. So folks in the audience, if you have questions, better get it to me soon, because I've got a big list here. So I guess the basic question, for rivers and water bodies, you always hear a lot about E. coli. How big of a deal is it? I mean, are there statistics on, the numbers of people getting sick when they recreate? I mean, like maybe Chattahoochee River, let's use that as a case study, right? When E. coli numbers are higher in the river, are there any statistics or data to support more people getting sick?
Yeah, I mean, according to the EPA, that number that I put up there, and that Swim Guide uses, that 235 MPN, that's the recommendation for safe water. So if it's above that level, they consider that to be an unacceptable risk. Acceptable is under that, and that is, they suggest that 36 out of 1,000 swimmers could potentially get ill at under that level. So there is some risk associated with being under that number. 36 out of 1,000 swimmers could potentially get some sort of gastrointestinal illness, ear infection, nose and throat, or something more serious for the immunocompromised or elderly, potentially. So that's the risk that they associate with that number, if that answers that question.
Yeah, I mean, Annie and Beth, you guys, I guess related, when E. coli numbers are higher in the river, do you guys notice a drop in visitation? Or does that just mean people don't know what the conditions are and they're recreating in dirtier water or polluted water?
No, so we definitely see a drop in visitation. We also have park policies in place to prevent visitation when there's a public health risk. So our CUAs and concessionaires aren't allowed to operate, or have to at least warn visitors, which deters them. It also, there's a correlation there with E. coli and turbidity, and that impacts also not just recreation from like kayaking, tubing, rafting, but also our fishery.
Yeah, and I will just add that again, really speaking back to what Mike was kind of pointing out, E. coli on its own is an indicator species. So if you have E. coli there, it would probably mean that other things are floating around as well. And unfortunately, a lot of people are not very good at identifying that what they're suffering is from waterborne illnesses. So somebody might enjoy a day out, they come back, they feel ill, and they think, oh, I probably got a little dehydrated, or or I'm a little bit heat stroke or sunstroke or something like that. And you don't always make that connection that actually what happened was that you swam in contaminated water and now you are ill. But in Canada, at least, it's estimated to be around 400,000 people a year that would suffer from waterborne illnesses. But again, E. coli is just the indicator. Like
Yeah.
if E. coli is present, then probably a lot of things are swimming around.
So related to that, or I mean, with contaminated water, dirty water, whatever you want to call it. I mean, you've got your app is pulling data from beaches, ocean beaches, and popular lakes, and all those sorts of places. Have you heard that, you know, again, there's drops in visitation and tourism? Like, what are the implications for tourism when you have unswimmable waters because of high E. coli or other bad stuff?
I'll give you the opposite example, right? Instead of focusing on that, so one of the things that we've experienced during COVID is that people were really seeking out places to recreate in away from the crowds, right? And what we found that actually when a site got representation on Swim Guide, I all of a sudden got a call from the municipality of that place being like, what have you done? All these people are coming to my beach now because they want to come recreate in my water. We can handle these kind of crowds. What are you doing? And but that's because people want to go see it, right? So I think that yes, if a site fails, you know, you could take it as a negative thing, like, oh no, the site failed and the water is bad. But it's a conversation starter with the community. If you have a community and you show them, hey, this site failed, the question that should follow up with that is, what can we do about it, right?
Yeah.
So if a site fails, I don't, again, like in my opinion of Swim Guide, if a site fails, it's a conversation starter. It's not like a hard stop there. And so I wouldn't, don't be afraid to show that the water is failing, because then you could follow up with, and this is what we do about it, right? Because there's an action involved there.
Yeah. What about, you mentioned also TripAdvisor. So do they ever make mention or reference to, again, glass half full, you know, those places that routinely have cleaner water? Is that ever reported or mentioned?
Well, we haven't. I use TripAdvisor as kind of like a role model of the structure of the website. But
yeah,
you know, funny enough, so on Swim Guide we have all kinds of bells and whistles to communicate different special messaging. So if a site chronically fails, we have ways on Swim Guide to communicate that to the public, to say this site chronically fails, or if a site fails because of issues that are not due to the standard. Let's say, for example, that you measure for E. coli, but you have discovered that your site has heavy metal present. Because you're basing your recreational standard on bacterial present, there's still the concern that your site might pass because it doesn't have any E. coli in it, but it passes because nothing can live in heavy metals, right? Or something like that. So long story short, we have a lot of ways to communicate things like that. And one of our affiliates in New Zealand actually reached out to me and asked, could we have a special status that indicates pristine water? Because he was saying that he would really like to show to the people that their water is that clean.
Yeah.
They get a special status, pristine.
Yeah.
So, which is kind of nice for them, I guess. But yeah, we do have. I didn't go into everything on this presentation, but we do have a lot of tools to communicate specific messaging for the community. Like I said, to get that mobilization of people caring for the water.
Yeah, I like that. Almost what New Zealand was looking for is like a LEED building certification, like, you know, green design, and getting, you know, recognized for that. That makes a lot of sense for conservation. You know. So shifting gears, Mike. I mean, how for your team of volunteers, what's entailed with that? Like, how much training and, you know, for coordinating that on through your group, how much work does that really take? I mean, you've got an extensive network but how does that all work?
Yeah, I mean, Jason Olseth, he's our Riverkeeper. He designed the program, and I have been lucky enough to been with it since pretty much the start, and kind of always designed this kind of human nature aspect into it. Knowing that it could scale up, we've always made sure that our steps, our participation from our volunteers is pretty straightforward and easy. And it's not too taxing on me as far as getting a training. That's designed into the program so that we could handle 200 sites, 134 volunteers. So it's a 15-minute training. Usually it starts with a phone call or an email. Somebody's like, I'd like to know what's going on in my water. And then I say, well, you're probably not around on Thursdays during the day. That's a lot of the drawback of the program is that, we operate during, normal business hours and during the week. And it's tough sometimes, a lot of times, for people to get a sample to us during that time. So that's the first challenge. But if people can make the commitment, it's really just about 15 minutes. I meet you out at the creek. A lot of times I will ask people to pick up a second creek. You've got this creek in your backyard. I have another site of significance that I'll say, can you just add this one on your way in? And once they're trained, they're pretty set. I give them this bag. I think I have one right here. Just a little bag that, they have all their stuff in, gloves and everything, and then they can just do the sampling on their own. It's all according to a quality assurance project plan as far as the procedures out there in the field for them. We do quality checks on that. But like I said, we designed it to not be too taxing on them or me, so that we can actually get it done. Many hands make light work. So 15-minute training, then they're good to bring us samples, and then we do the processing. So on a Thursday, my fellow is in the lab right now with an intern on processing samples. We'll probably get about 70 today. So they're in there processing samples. We post that stuff by Friday, and hopefully, the information is out there. So that's kind of the soup to nuts process of getting people trained. We're always looking for volunteers. So anybody who's interested in the Chattahoochee watershed, let me know.
And is that the water monitoring program that your Waterkeeper does? I mean, within the network, is that a pretty popular or common program that other Riverkeeper groups provide?
Yeah, we are the first neighborhood water watch of our kind, but yeah, other groups have definitely replicated the program. We have several neighborhood water watch style programs, and that's part of what I do in my capacity as the program director, is to help these other local small groups get off the ground. We have a handbook that I can send out to people if they're interested on, where do we get the lab? Where do we get the volunteers? All that stuff is in the handbook on just we encourage other people to do the same thing and make those branches between communities who are interested in their water quality and municipalities that can actually make a fix, that can fix a pipe. Where is that? Where is the pipe? Where are the people? We're pretty good at bringing people together and bringing resources together. So that's one of the beauties of the program there.
Do you, I guess this is a question for Laura and Mike again. In the U.S., there's a wild and scenic river system, protected like a Wilderness Act for land. There's something for rivers without any barriers, free flowing, wilderness type conditions. Are there water quality efforts monitoring there by other river keepers? And maybe I'm wondering too, or you would probably know this, I mean, if there's maybe the swim guide is maybe using some of that information, because generally wild and scenic rivers in the US are a really high recognition designation by Congress for outstanding, free flowing water. So it seems like this could be a really nice tool for helping to maintain those conditions. Do you guys have a sense offhand for if it is being used in that way?
Or do you know?
I am not 100% sure if it does. But again, we have a lot of affiliates in the United States, so it might be that some of these affiliates are a part of that program. But again, if you have a site on the water that you would like to kind of let people know that it exists, then it could definitely be put on SwimGuide and give that recognition, and kind of like Mike was saying, that a lot of waterkeeper groups have in-house monitoring programs. Sometimes, they're very specific, or sometimes they're very broad. But when I speak to a lot of waterkeepers and a lot of riverkeeper organizations, and I ask them, like, what would you like people to know about your river? They always say that they feel like their water doesn't get enough visibility. They don't get enough visits. They tell me, oh, people live in this town and they don't realize that they could come recreate in the water, like right here. Sometimes we have urban settings that people don't even know that they could go swimming in the river that crosses their own city, because of heritage kind of misconceptions about the water, water stigma that happens a lot of times in kind of more urban settings, for like, oh, don't go in there, you'll grow an extra leg, just kind of stuff like that. I remember, for example, when I came to Halifax, I asked someone, hey, do you go swimming here? And they said, oh, no way, no, you shouldn't go in there. And I challenged them on that perception, and I asked them, with all respect, like, according to what? Who sampled this? Who analyzed the samples? And when was it? And then they said, oh, you know what? Now that I think about it, I don't even know when I heard about it. It was just always dirty. All kinds of stuff like that. So again, I think it's, in terms of that, like you were saying, kind of giving a place a status and letting people know, oh, this site is good for this or good for that. It really has to come with the awareness and showing people what you found. We kind of say, it's kind of like a tree falling in the forest. If you grab the sample and you didn't share it with as many people as you can, did you even grab a sample, right? Like, who if nobody hears about it, what was that work good for? And I think that's really the strength of SwimGuide here, is just letting people know, even if you had these misconceptions, and even if you did think that body of water is dirty for whatever reason, here is the actual result, and here is the actual when was it taken, so people can make more informed decisions about their recreational water usage.
I think that's a real challenge at the park level, is getting over that perception. I think the Chattahoochee River has had this reputation of having poor water quality, but having opportunities like the Bacteria Alert program, where we are monitoring, to be able to show, yes, it's not safe to recreate in the Chattahoochee River 100% of the time, but a majority of the time it's safe. And so being able to get that message out to the public through, SwimGuide or Bacteria Alert is really important. And then another kind of tie-in to Mike's presentation is that, Neighborhood Water Watch is, this amazing program, and it's, I think he said 140 spills have been, reported and corrected, so that, all of those spills are in tributaries that feed into the river and impact water quality and recreation, so we're seeing these improvements through time, but also, I guess, tying into Orr's point, all the data from Neighborhood Water Watch is open access. So the park has been able to work with USGS on a funded focused condition assessment to dive into some of that data to look at other sources. And so having that data and information available is really key, because the park does not have the capacity to monitor 200 sites. We can barely monitor the 3 with the staffing and the funding that we have. So that is a really great tie-in partnership for us to to have access to that information to help us make informed management decisions.
Yeah, and just to build on what Annie said, two things that I wanted to say. So again, I didn't go into all of these bells and whistles, but one of the things that Swim Guide allows you to do is through the analytics kind of reporting that you can generate, you can learn how many people visit your site or how many people look at the work that you do. And that is actually extremely useful and very, very powerful tool, because sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes decision makers really need to see numbers. And, and for example, I had this call, I remember, with this health unit that was telling me, like, oh, you know, we don't monitor this site. It used to be monitored, but then we were cut funding, and now we don't monitor this site. And I told them, but look, you get through Swim Guide, they can show a report that shows that this specific site was getting over 8,000 views around the summer. And I told them, that's really valuable information for you to take it back to the decision makers and say, hey, we should start sampling there again, because people are clearly going there. You know, it's really useful to know and to be able to quantify your community in order to then better advocate for your needs around the water. And the other thing about, again, what Anne was saying about sharing the data, you know, not all of our affiliates are established enough to have an in-house wet lab. That is actually, you need to be very, very established. And again, like chapeau to Chattahoochee Riverkeeper for having that. But some of our affiliates take on the responsibility to share the data from the work that's done by other monitoring programs. And that's completely fine, you know, because sometimes you have reports from, you know, some health units or municipalities that unfortunately, they share their data in a very exclusive way, meaning that sometimes you need to download an Excel spreadsheet and open it up in pages and then look it up, and then you have one line, and then at the end it says something like LT5. And for us, people who are more involved in water science know that LT5 means less than 5, because the most probable number that you can get from a quantity tray is less than 5. That's great. But for the general public, that's very, very exclusive. It's not even color-coded. You know, how can you expect people to make decisions when you're sharing data in such, again, just, I don't know, in other words, it's just a really exclusive way. You're not letting people in, you're just putting up barriers. So again, even if you specifically don't have your own monitoring hub or your own monitoring program, I still extend an invitation to all of you to reach out, because if you have water that you would like to represent on Swim Guide, then definitely you have a place on Swim Guide.
Beautiful. Or, I mean, this communication is so underappreciated generally in the government, conservation more broadly. I mean, that's the irony, right? Is that with good communication, we have protected areas, right? Without that, we wouldn't have these protected areas. But yet it's still incumbent to continue that transparency with the conditions and having partners like Chattahoochee Riverkeepers to help think about the landscape, the watershed, and again, putting in the time and commitment at the park level. You know, Annie and Beth working with the Riverkeepers, that partnership takes time and effort, but right, without it, we're working in this little microcosm instead of communicating more broadly. And then again, bringing it full circle to, you know, to empowering communities and individuals to be aware of that information and to do something about it. I mean, it's just really fantastic lineup. I told you guys before, I was so excited about this presentation. You guys nailed it. This great. I still have a whole nother page of questions for you all, but you guys covered a lot of great ground. And I think, again, obviously, with this example, case study in the Chattahoochee River really made it obvious that individuals can volunteer with Chattahoochee Riverkeepers. They can volunteer with a park. They can, even outside of that, still work with OR and getting that, go in their creek or river and still get that data on water quality up and available to the public, so people are aware and can make sure that they have the tools to live in a clean environment, which everybody wants.
Exactly.
So thank you so much. Our next webinar is going to be coming up here. Sorry, I've got it on another screen here. On the 26th, so Tuesday the 26th, and we're going to have the EPA and Department of Environmental Protection Agency and DOE, the Department of Energy, talk about how individuals can live more sustainably, and in the process reduce their carbon footprint. Again, the recurring theme with all of these webinars is that the federal government can't do it alone. The Park Service is not going to tackle the climate crisis or the biodiversity crisis. We need to empower and have an all of the above strategy for work, helping and trying to get everybody, individuals, communities, feds, NGOs, all of us working together to try to tackle these issues together. And again, the individuals can play a big part in that. So there's the link there. Hope everyone can join it. And again, thank you, Mike, or Annie, and Beth for a fantastic presentation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us, Brian.
Yeah.
Of course.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. Take care.
You too. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.